Put a human beside a cow and a lion, and our dinner suddenly looks confusing. A cow can live on grass that we cannot digest. A lion can tear into raw flesh with jaws and instincts we do not have. Yet humans have filled bowls with roots, fruits, leaves, grains, shellfish, eggs, insects, milk, and meat. We are not the champion specialist in either direction. We are something more adaptable, omnivores who learn to turn uncertainty into a menu. But calling humans omnivores does not mean every person must eat every kind of food. It does not prescribe one modern diet. Omnivory describes capacity and flexibility. Across different places and times, human groups built workable diets from very different combinations of available foods. The deeper question is why that flexibility became so powerful. To answer it, omnivorous patches offered fruit, young leaves, nuts, and insects. More open ground offered underground storage organs, seeds, carcasses, small animals, and seasonal opportunities that could disappear without warning. A specialist tied to one food could thrive while that food lasted and struggle when it vanished. A generalist could switch tactics. Our primate inheritance already provided a broad starting point. Hands could reach, pull, peel, and hold. Forward-facing eyes helped judge distance. Teeth were not a row of slicing blades or a battery of grass grinders. Incisors could bite, modest canines could puncture, and broad molars could crush and grind. None of those parts alone proves a particular ancient meal, but together they fit an animal that handled foods with different textures. The digestive system tells a similar story, though comparisons must be cautious. Humans have a single stomach and a long small intestine that absorbs fats, sugars, amino acids, vitamins, and minerals. Our large intestine hosts microbes that ferment some material escaping earlier digestion. We cannot unlock cellulose from grass the way a cow can, because we lack the cow's vast fermentation chambers and specialized partnership with microbes. We also are not built exactly like a strict carnivore. That middle position created a problem. Many possible foods were physically or chemically difficult. A raw tuber might be fibrous. A nut might be locked inside a shell. A carcass might be protected by hide, tendons, and bone. Seeds might be tiny. Some plants contain defensive compounds while meat spoiled quickly and could carry parasites. Human omnivory became extraordinary because hands, tools, fire, memory, and cooperation changed the foods before the gut ever met them. Picture a stone flake striking through hide. It is not a fang, but it can cut more cleanly than human teeth. A hammerstone can crack a bone or a nut. A digging stick can reach a buried root. A basket can turn hundreds of scattered seeds into one transported load. Technology functions like detachable anatomy. Instead of waiting for evolution to produce a new claw, beak, or jaw, animal foods matter within that widening repertoire. Meat, fat, organs, marrow, eggs, fish, and shellfish can deliver dense packages of energy and nutrients, but acquiring them was never automatically easy. Hunting large animals was dangerous and uncertain. Scavenging meant competition with predators. A successful carcass was temporary, heavy, and perishable. The reward could be large, yet failure could leave a group hungry. Plant foods offered different rhythms. Fruit could be abundant and then disappear with the season. Nuts and seeds could sometimes be stored, but collecting and processing them required time. Roots and tubers hid underground, often remaining available when food above ground was scarce. Leaves were widespread, but generally less energy-dense. No single category was always best. The advantage came from knowing several categories and switching when conditions changed. This is where cooperation multiplied omnivory. One person could search for shellfish while another dug roots. Skilled trackers could follow an animal, while others gathered fuel or carried water. Older people could remember where trees fruited after rare rains. Children could watch which mushrooms were avoided, how long a tuber was roasted, or where a sharp stone could be found. Shared food also spread risk. One person's luck became several people's meal. Language and teaching made those choices cumulative. An animal can learn by trial and observation, but humans can explain an invisible danger, describe a place beyond the horizon, and preserve a method across generations. Do not eat this berry. Break that shell at its seam. Return to the river when the water falls. Smoke this meat before the journey. A flexible diet became a library of local knowledge, and fire transformed the library. Heating can soften tissues, gelatinize starch, and make some foods easier to chew and digest. It can destroy many pathogens and reduce some plant defenses, although cooking never makes every dangerous food safe. Fire also creates new risks. Food can burn, smoke can harm, and heat does not erase every toxin. The important point is that cooking widened the set of usable resources and changed the energy and time required to eat them. Consider a hard, starchy root. Raw, it demands long chewing and may yield its energy slowly. Cut, pounded, and roasted, its structure changes. Moist heat can disrupt starch granules, giving digestive enzymes better access. Now, the mouth is not merely biting a plant. It is receiving a food already mechanically and thermally processed. Much of human digestion begins outside the body. On meat changes too. Cutting reduces the work of tearing. Pounding can break fibers. Cooking alters proteins and connective tissues. Drying or smoking can slow spoilage under the right conditions, allowing a temporary success to last longer. These techniques do not prove that one food created humanity. They show a repeated pattern. Humans made both plant and animal resources easier to use. The archaeological record can tempt us into telling a meat-only story. Animal bones survive. Cut marks can remain visible. Stone tools endure for immense spans of time. A berry, leaf, or peeled root usually vanishes. If one ancient campsite leaves butchered bones and stone flakes, those dramatic remains do not automatically represent every calorie eaten there. The durable evidence may be the loudest evidence, not the whole meal. Researchers therefore combine clues. Tooth shape suggests what kinds of mechanical challenges were possible, not an exact menu. Microscopic wear can reveal recent contacts with hard or abrasive foods, but it covers a limited window. Chemical isotopes in teeth and bones can trace broad pathways through an ecosystem, yet the same signal may come from a plant or from an animal that ate that plant. Each clue answers a different question. At Eastercana, for example, carbon isotope evidence indicates that members of the genus Homo increased their use of resources linked to tropical grasses and sedges around 1.65 million years ago. But that chemical shift cannot by itself tell us whether the meal was a grass seed, a sedge tuber, the flesh of a grazing animal, or the uncertainties not a failure. It is the honest boundary of the method. Even famous claims about a sudden explosion in meat eating have been re-examined. When archaeologists correct for how many fossils were actually sampled from different time periods, the apparent leap in butchered bones around early Homo becomes less decisive. More digging can produce more marked bones. That does not make meat irrelevant. It means a simple story in which one steak instantly built the human body is stronger than the evidence. One of the most intimate records comes from ancient teeth. Dental plaque can mineralize into calculus and trap microscopic particles. In Neanderthal calculus from Shanidar Cave in Iraq and Spy Cave in Belgium, researchers identified plant remains including starch granules and phytoliths. The evidence included date palm, legumes, and relatives of grass seeds. Some starches showed damage consistent with cooking. That discovery matters because Neanderthals were accomplished large animal hunters, yet their teeth preserved another side of the menu. Across very different climates, they used plant foods available in their surroundings and processed at least some of them. It is a warning against turning a capable hunter into a dietary caricature. Skill with meat does not erase knowledge of plants. Our own saliva holds another clue. Amylase begins breaking starch into smaller sugars. People vary in the number of copies they carry of the salivary amylase gene, AMY1, and in a well-known comparative study, populations with traditionally starch-rich diets had higher average copy numbers than populations whose traditional diets contain less starch. That does not divide humanity into fixed fruit types. Individuals overlap, environments change, and genes are only part of digestion. But AMY1 variation demonstrates something important. Humans invent ways to find and prepare starch. Over generations, biology can respond to the foods culture makes common. The menu changes the eater, even as the eater changes the menu. Milk provides another example of that two-way process. Like other mammals, most humans reduce production of the enzyme lactase after childhood. Yet in some populations with long histories of dairying, genetic variants allowing lactase activity into adulthood became common. Herding created a dependable new resource, and natural selection favored the ability to use it. Adult milk digestion is therefore neither universally human nor natural. It is a local evolutionary answer to a cultural practice. Agriculture later rearranged diets on an enormous scale. Domesticated grains, legumes, roots, fruits, and animals made particular foods more predictable, though harvests could still fail. Grinding stones turned grain into flour. Pots made boiling and stewing easier. Fermentation changed flavor, storage, and digestibility. Herding supplied meat, blood, or milk in different cultural systems. Farming did not invent omnivory. It concentrated and reorganized it. The results differed from place to place. Rice-shaped cuisines in some wet landscapes. Wheat and barley spread through others. Maize transformed food systems in the Americas. Potatoes supported communities at high altitude. Coastal peoples could build meals around marine resources. Pastoralists around herds. Forest communities around plants, game, and rivers. There has never been one timeless human menu hiding behind all this diversity. Season matters as much as geography. A group may eat more fruit during one month. More storage smooths those swings, but storage itself is technology. A sealed container, raised greenery, drying rack, or cool pit turns food gathered today into options for tomorrow. Omnivory is not merely what can enter the mouth. It is a system for managing time. The gut's microbial community also responds to what repeatedly arrives. Human microbiomes vary among people and can shift with subsistence, lifestyle, and diet. Comparative studies have found striking plasticity rather than one universal ancestral microbial state. Microbes help process some components that human enzymes cannot fully break down, especially in the colon. The microbiome is not a magical proof that one fashionable menu is the original one. Taste helped guide choices, but taste is not a perfect nutrition app. Sweetness can signal readily available energy. Umami can accompany amino acids. Salt is physiologically important. Bitterness may warn of plant chemicals. Yet learning, hunger, cooking, and culture reshape preference. A child can acquire a taste that would surprise an ancestor and reject a food another society treasures. That cultural layer explains why identical biology can produce such different cuisines. One community ferments cabbage, and one prizes insects as seasonal protein. Another barely recognizes them as food. Religious rules, trade, status, memory, and identity decide which possible foods become acceptable meals. Human omnivory offers a broad possibilities base, and culture draws the map inside it. Trade stretched that map beyond the local landscape. Dried foods, salt, pottery, boats, and roads allowed calories and flavors to move between ecological zones. A farming village could exchange grain for fish. A coastal community could obtain stone, oil, or fruit from inland neighbors. In difficult seasons, these connections acted like an extra habitat. People could draw on resources that did not grow beside their own homes. Food networks therefore became another extension of the human digestive strategy. Children made the system durable. A young person did not have to rediscover every edible plant by dangerous trial and error. They learned through imitation, correction, ritual, and repeated chores. The ordinary acts of washing, soaking, grinding, roasting, and sharing carried generations of experiments inside them. What looks like a simple recipe can be compressed survival knowledge, including details about season, ripeness, temperature, and time that are invisible in the final meal. Flexibility also carries costs. A generalist must recognize more hazards. The wrong plant can poison. Poorly processed cassava can be dangerous. Spoiled meat can infect. Shellfish can concentrate toxins. A varied menu requires rules, specialists, and trust. For much of human history, survival depended not only on finding calories, but on knowing whose knowledge to follow. There is another cost. Flexibility can be exploited by modern abundance. Preferences that once helped people notice rare energy-rich foods now operate in shops filled with concentrated sugar, fat, salt, and refined starch. That is a modern food environment problem, not evidence that humans were meant to eat unlimited quantities of any single ingredient. Evolution equips organisms for past patterns. It does not issue a perfect plan for every new marketplace. So what should we conclude from teeth, tools, genes, and old meals? Not that every human needs meat. Not that plants were a fallback. Not that cooking alone created a giant brain. Each of those slogans takes a complicated record and removes the uncertainty. The stronger conclusion is that humans repeatedly combine biology with behavior to use whatever mix of resources a place could reliably provide. We could cut without fangs, grind without giant molars, and open shells without a beak. We could cook roots, share marrow, dry fish, pound seeds, ferment milk, and carry grain. We could remember famine foods, teach safe preparation, trade with neighbors, and borrow recipes. Our great dietary adaptation was not a single ingredient. It was the ability to build new food systems. Return to the cow and lion. Each is magnificent because it is highly equipped for a narrower strategy. The cow carries a living fermentation factory. The lion carries a predator's body. Humans carry a modest, mixed toolkit, then surround it with stones, fire, containers, microbes, stories, and other people. We eat both plants and animals because evolution left room for choice, and culture turned that room into thousands of solutions. That is why the search for one perfect ancestral plate keeps failing. The past contains grassland and forest, coast and mountain, drought and plenty, gathering and hunting, raw foods and transformed ones. Human beings did not survive by obeying one menu everywhere. We survived by noticing what each landscape offered, sharing the risk, and learning how to make more of it edible. Omnivory, then, is not indecision. It is a survival strategy built from flexible bodies and inventive communities. The most human thing on the table may not be the plant or the animal. It It may be the accumulated knowledge that chose it, prepared it, shared it, and remembered what to do when tomorrow's food was different.